So today, I'm happy to be with you again, and welcome to all of you online, wherever you are, watching on whatever device you're on in the magic world of technology. We are happy to have you part of us today. I'm going to be speaking about three aspects of our life that all of us deal with all the time, and especially the first two. I'm talking about the mundane, the profane, and the sacred. Now, we know what the mundane is, don't we? Every single day we're dealing with chores, with things that have to be taken care of. Most familiar with cooking, cleaning, car washing, mowing the lawn, paying the bills. These are mundane things that have to be taken care of in anyone's life. Driving in traffic, getting a haircut, it's so much. Have you ever noticed how much of your life is maintenance? You got to maintain your body, the dentist, maybe the therapist, the doctor, the optometrist. It goes on and on. Clothing, dry cleaning, everything. We're just inundated with to-do lists. That's called the world of the mundane. Usually they lack excitement or inspiration, making them by definition mundane. And much of what we experience every day falls into this category of what Elvis Presley used to call taking care of business. And that's what we're about largely. So much of our life is about that. But along with that, we also experience the profane. Now, I'm not talking about profanity. I know none of you swear. No, I bet you all do, because you know why? I just read the other day that people who swear a lot are smarter than people who don't. So that makes me a freaking genius. I don't know about you. But some words just are better than others, right? To get your point across. No, I'm serious about the profane being a spiritual thing. The actual meaning of the word is that which, and this is something to hold on to, that which is outside the temple. Now the temple, what is the temple? We're speaking about the temple of spiritual truth. That which is outside the temple is profane. And the temple would be the spiritual truth. Back in the old days of metaphysicians, they would say being profane would be you're off principle. And that means that we are describing our life as if we had little to do with it. And that we have forgotten for the moment that consciousness precedes form and experience. We have forgotten that there's one power being all life and that all of us have access to it and express it in our own unique way. So usually profane means we are pointing fingers away from ourselves. And it's called, of course, condemning and blaming and judging the world for our unhappiness. It's attributing cause to anything outside of the temple of our own spiritual beingness. This is important. Blaming, condemning, judging harshly, these are all outside the temple. I heard something this week that I found quite useful. And I think it was a therapist online who said, when you're faced with someone who's driving you nuts, or someone on the news that's really upsetting what they're doing, she said, try these 4 words. I assume intentions. And this is a very profound spiritual principle. Everybody is doing the best they can according to what they believe about themselves. Emma Curtis Hopkins said, everybody is saying the same thing. There's good for me and I ought to have it. But not everybody knows how to get it. Not everybody knows they generate it from within. Most people in the world think it's out there and they're going to get it somehow. They're going to grab it, they're going to fight for it, they're going to start a war for it. But they're doing the best they can. They have good intentions. Now, we don't say that for them, but for ourselves, to hold on to our center of peace, to hold on to our truth. It's important because we are all generating from within, and what we believe stay here, it really does ripple out into this field of subjective mind of which we are all one. and all part of it. And so what we know to be true ripples through that field, and it's caught by those who have ears to hear. So outside of the temple is not the spiritual way to navigate life, but it's easy to do. These ideas of naming and blaming are profane because they arise not from inspiration, not from a kind of inner peace, but from desperation. People do terrible things when they're desperate, or in existential angst. So desperate to make sense of the world, we sometimes grasp the easiest explanation. Have you ever done that? No, nobody in this room. Of course. Joseph Campbell said something really profound, and Joseph Campbell was the famous mythologist that Bill Moyers interviewed many decades ago. He said, "Life is wonderful, but it hurts." See, that's it. We are walking a very narrow path, and it's easy to fall off on one side and forget the other. Now, this side is the spiritual, the beliefs, what we know to be true, and then we're in the world where things hurt sometimes, the world of pleasure and pain, and sometimes it's very easy to fall off into that. And so this teaching, largely, is about having the tools to live in that world without falling victim to it, to live in that world, to see through the appearance. This is what the master teacher Jesus said. This is how you do it, is you judge righteously by seeing through the appearance to the being that's standing before you, to the spiritual light that's actually there, and to call it out. And the only way we call it out is in our own mind. It's not really important what they do. It's important how we see them or see the world. That's how real change comes, when we don't validate evil behavior, when we don't validate unthinking actions, but we stand firm and see through it as best we can. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy being human. Kermit the Frog knew the truth. It ain't easy being green, and it's not easy being human. So it's tempting to make sense of the world by looking out there and saying, well, that's why, and they did, and those people, and then the past, my parents, and then it's always something else outside the temple. That's profane. Okay, but there is a higher way to live, and it's the sacred. The sacred is a higher perception. And this is where you can see the sacred in the mundane. Somebody said either everything is. And they also said that about miracles. Either everything is a miracle or nothing is. I think it was Einstein that said that. So, yes, everything is sacred. What does this mean? What is sacred? Well, one definition is made by God, or something that is arising from the divine, from the quantum field of love and intelligence, which is, of course, everything that lives. All sentient life is one life being individually expressed. So the sacred aspect of your nature, my nature, is the being that's looking through the eyes. Not the psychology and not the past, but the being who's standing here. And this is what we attempt to cultivate in this teaching, is to remember who we are, what our origins actually are. So sacred means coming from something perfect and allowing itself to seem imperfect. There's an old saying, I think it's from Hinduism. ErnestHolmes quotes it in his book, The Science of Mind, but he didn't credit it. But it says, I, the imperfect, adore my own perfect. That's meditation. That's spiritual mind treatment. That's the goal. To know that as a human being, I have flaws and personality quirks, and I can really upset people if I want. But behind all that, there's this beautiful light, this beautiful being. And if there weren't, we would never get past the third grade. We would never recover from anything. It's like when you get a cut finger, I always use this analogy, but it works for little kids and older people. You don't do anything about it, and it heals. There's a wholeness matrix, and it's true of everything about it. Our entire body is that wholeness matrix expressing. And what makes it less than that are our beliefs, our fears, our judgments, our condemnations. And a lot of times they're turned within, right? We beat ourselves up pretty well. I'm really good at that, aren't you? Yeah, I should have, I could have, well, I would have, why didn't I, and all that. But the body just keeps pumping along. The body, and as Emerson said, up again, old heart, let's keep going. The body is sacred. And that's why a lot of teachers refer to it as the temple, the body temple. It is the residence of spirit. It's where God lives on this plane, this time-space dimension. This is where spirit lives, is as this body, as these eyes looking out. So seeing the sacred in the mundane is a very challenging practice. The Buddhists know how to do it pretty well. It's the realization that what we are doing, the mundane, does not define who we are. I remember one time when I was very young, my ex-husband and I were managing an apartment, a small apartment house. My son was 2 years old. And they had white painted steps. So I just took it upon myself to scrub them. I figured, well, they're dirty, they need to be, So I'm on my hands and knees scrubbing these steps, and my father happened to walk by. He actually was part owner of the building. And he said, Carol, get up off your knees. You are not to be doing that. You are better than this. And I looked at him. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. It was like, this has nothing to do with me. I'm just scrubbing steps. And I didn't realize I was kind of Buddhist when I was young. I didn't know it. But that's the truth. What we are doing never defines us. Things need to be taken care of, and we handle them, right? What would happen if we just stopped doing everything? The world would be more chaotic than it actually is. So the being that we are is not changed by what we're doing. And by the way, not by what has happened in our past. We are never damaged, never diminished by any event. Not the whole self. The only thing that's damaged is our self-esteem. And that's our opinion of ourselves. That's when we say, I'll never recover. I'm a victim. And we've all been victimized, but none of us are victims. And sometimes we keep participating in it, and because we maybe haven't learned how to stop doing that. And how to stop doing that is to return to the sacred, to go back into who am I? Who's standing here? Who's been here all these years? I'm more than a survivor. I'm alive. I'm a sentient being that's an individualization of a beautiful intelligence. ErnestHolmes used to say, the universe and everything in it is the visible evidence of an incredible intelligence at work. And we also must say an incredible love making it all happen. Love is the energy of cohesiveness that brings things together that belong together. So the sacred exists in the midst of the mundane and the profane. And I believe we ought to start with ourselves. Our very being is sacred, and we are the emanation of an infinite love and intelligence. I want you to say a couple things. I see with spiritual eyes. I feel the sacred presence everywhere. I infuse my life with inspiration from the divine. I transform the mundane with my spiritual sight. I see through the appearance. I see the sacred. They must have good intentions. I just added that one on. Okay, so I believe we have to always start with ourselves. Love and intelligence, to me, is the best description of God. Love, intelligence in a perfect right relationship to create the third thing, being the universe and everything in it, but that includes us. And so what we do, the words we speak, and even our thoughts are sacred acts. You could say sacraments, if you will. They're an offering. We are offering the world. what we think, how we speak, and what we believe. So when we speak ill of ourselves or others, we are uttering profanities. Human life is sacred first, mundane second, depending on how we choose to live, and profane only to the degree we stray from the temple. We stray from our spiritual roots. ErnestHolmes said, in effect, the farmer sees the sacred in the field. The mother sees the sacred in her newborn's eyes. The gardener sees the sacred in the soil. And this is why everything we ever wanted to know about life can be seen in nature. And I think we all need to get out more and be with nature, because it's a beautiful evidence of the perfect matrix of the intelligence that runs so deeply. You know, when you think, I saw a packet of seeds somewhere this morning. Oh, it was at your house. And I thought, you put a little thing like that in the soil, cover it up, and what do you know? You know it has intelligence within that thing. There's a code in there that says, become a daffodil, or whatever it is, and by God, it does it. If it's not interfered with, the soil has nutrients in it, the water from the rain or the gardener watering it, and the light, it just becomes. That is what life is. Everything has a code within it that knows how to be successful, how to be happy, how to be more prosperous, how to be a giver. Giving and receiving are the same thing. It's a wonderful circle. So we all have an inner code we could call the sacred aspect of our being, and it knows itself as us. The great I am personified as the I am that I name myself. So human life, it's a miracle. It's a sacred miracle. So this is basically the practice of New Thought, is seeing through the appearance, judging things righteously, taking back our own power by realizing everything starts as an idea. It's just like the song Richard sang, that old John Lennon and Yoko Ono song. She wrote the lyrics, Did you know that? Yes. Yeah, she did. It's an idea. It says, imagine. Use your mind to imagine the world that we want to live in. We need to do that all the time. That's the practice. To see the mundane as a blessing, like, how lucky that I can drive this car. How lucky that I have enough money to put gas in it. How fortunate it is that I have good food to eat and that I can share, that I can support kids around the world, which I do. I hope you do too. No Kid Hungry is a great organization, by the way, to support. But we're so fortunate. We're so fortunate, and we must know the truth about people around the world who are not experiencing the level of fortune we are. We must not call them poor people. We must not say, well, they don't, their culture. No, it's like, that's God too. That's the Spirit in that form, and we need to call it out in our own mind. We need to see everybody as an emanation of this infinite intelligence. So we cannot lump people into boxes. We're all God being human. We're all the divine. Okay, so to sum up, we are both spiritual and human. Let's say this out loud. I am spiritual and human. I am ethereal and physical. I am vibration and flesh. A lot of flesh at this time. Anyway, I am eternal and temporary. One is not more real than the other, but one is everlasting. And one is subject to time and space limitation. And so in this teaching, a part of it is to learn how to be in the time-space limitation and learn how you can transcend some of the effects of them. That we are greater than any effect, greater than any temporary bodily disturbance, which is nothing but a fluctuation in energy. It's another talk. But learning to bring a more spiritual perception to the limited realm is the practice we talk about in New Thought, and it is a sacred act. Let's know together that the one power that is the only power there is everywhere present, in this moment and in every moment. There is no place where spirit is not. All of it, all the time, all at once, equally distributed in every life. And all of its qualities are ours to use, to express the love, the joy, the peace, the vitality, the supply. These are the building blocks of a human life. They turn themselves into experience. And so we claim them. We claim them over and over and over again. My life is the life of spirit being lived just for the fun of it, just for the joy of it, just because it must express itself in this dimension to know itself. And so we are a blessing. Our life is a blessing. Everything about it is a blessing. We accept it all as a sacred experience. No matter what we're doing, we are always in the presence of our source. And so we begin again, and we know this for every person on this planet, every child. We see them all well-fed, well-sheltered, well-educated, well-loved. It is our nature to do so. We bring it about by imagining it. We let it be. Right now, we release these words knowing that they find their natural landing place, and they become external visions of themselves. With gratitude in our hearts, we let it be, and we say it together, and so it is.